Chapter 2848. No buts. Try it, it's delicious. Feng Jiu said with a smile, gesturing for him to try it. Seeing this, Hui Lang picked up a prawn with his chopsticks. It was slightly spicy and tasted delicious. The prawn meat was plump and springy, and when he bit down, it had a crispy texture. This texture and spiciness spread in his mouth, and he couldn't help but take a deep breath. Hiss! So spicy, so crispy, so fragrant. From mildly spicy to extremely spicy, the spiciness seemed to change. After eating only one prawn, his forehead was already sweating. Although it was very spicy, the texture was really good, and he didn't want to stop eating, so he continued eating. Feng Jiu saw this and smiled, saying, "Although it's delicious, if you really can't finish it, then don't eat too much." "I can, this is delicious," Hui Lang said. "Then, do you want another pot of wine?" Feng Jiu asked. "Thank you, Ghost Doctor." Hui Lang grinned and quickly thanked him. Thus, Feng Jiu asked someone to send him a pot of wine. Seeing him eat, he asked, "Do you want rice?" "No need for rice." Hui Lang waved his hand and poured himself a cup of wine. Yi, who was in the dark, was a little surprised. Was it really that delicious? However, the chili water made him frown. If Hui Lang really ate that big pot of chili, he wouldn't be able to stand it. Xianyuan Mose looked at Hui Lang eating and asked, "Is he okay eating like that?" "It's okay, don't worry. At most, he'll have constipation." Feng Jiu smiled. By the time Hui Lang finished eating, it was already 15 minutes later. However, when he turned to look at the two of them, even the two of them who were very calm couldn't help but be stunned. "Master, Ghost Doctor, what's wrong?" Hui Lang asked. His face was slightly red because of the spicy food, but it was hard to tell because of his skin color. His lips were more than half swollen at this time, which made people unable to help but laugh. Feng Jiu stood up and poked her head out to take a look and was stunned again. She saw that the soup in the basin was also drunk by him. She stared at him and asked, "Why did you drink this soup?" Hui Lang swallowed his saliva and said, "Ghost Doctor, you don't know, but that prawn was really fragrant. The soup was even fresher. I wanted to try it, but I couldn't help but drink it." Burp! He burped and rubbed his stomach. "I'm so full. You ate too much." Seeing this, Feng Jiu's mouth twitched. Looking at his red and swollen lips, he asked, "Your mouth doesn't feel anything? How do you feel?" "I don't feel anything. I've long been numb from the spicy food." As he spoke, he reached out to touch it and was stunned. "Why does it feel different?" Feng Jiu shook his head. With a turn of his hand, he took out a bottle of pills. He poured out one pill and handed it to him. "Eat it. It clears the heat and detoxifies the poison." "Thank you, Ghost Doctor." Hui Lang grinned. "Let's go back. We've been out for a long time today." Feng Jiu looked at Xianyuan Mose and said, Xianyuan Mose responded. He looked at Hui Lang and helplessly shook his head. He walked away with Feng Jiu. He came out from the shadows and looked at Hui Lang. He couldn't help but laugh. "You can walk back with this face." As soon as he finished speaking, he rushed forward. Chapter 2849. When the people in the residence saw Hui Lang return with a red and swollen mouth, they were all astonished and looked at him curiously. Luo Yu asked, "Hui Lang, what happened to you?" "It's nothing. I drank too much soup and ended up like this," Hui Lang said as he quickly returned to his room. Everyone smiled and didn't ask any more questions. However, they didn't know that he would go to the latrine every day for the next few days. In the rear courtyard, Feng Jiu went to her mother's place and told her about the things they had bought that day. Finally, after sitting with her family for a while, she returned to her room. After taking a bath, she lay on the bed and heard footsteps coming in. She took a look and saw that it was Xianyuan Mose. She said, "My grandfather is willing to let you come back? I thought you would play chess with him the entire night." Xianyuan Mose's lips curved slightly. He took off his outer coat and poured himself a cup of water by the table. He said, "I played 3 games in a row and lost all 3 games. Do you think the old master will keep me for the entire night? Tonight, my mother told me that my older brother has picked a date to send the betrothal gifts. He said that he will come to pick up the bride 3 days after the betrothal gifts are sent. I don't think anyone else can be as fast as him." Speaking of this, she smiled. "Looking at how happy my older brother is tonight, It seems that he is also very happy. Marriage is a joyous occasion. Of course he is happy. After drinking the cup of water, Xinyuan Mose sat down by the bed and looked at her lying on the bed. He said, after he gets married, we should also leave. At that time, we can also send Feng Yi and the others back. Okay, she nodded in response and lay down a little to make room for him. I haven't bathed yet. You go to sleep first. He stood up but didn't lie down. Instead, he asked the servants to prepare a bath and went to take a bath first. Seeing this, Feng Jiu yawned, turned over, and fell asleep while hugging his blanket. In the following days, the Feng Manor did its best to arrange Guan Shilin's betrothal gifts. Everyone became busy. Some of the aristocratic families in the city also knew that Guan Shilin was about to get married. Thus they all prepared gifts to congratulate him. Because the two places were too far apart, the Yi family also came to the Peach Blossom Dock after Feng Xiao accompanied Guan Shilin to deliver the betrothal gifts. This was what Yi Jing and Guan Shilin had discussed. They planned to get married in Peach Blossom Dock. On the day of the wedding, the Guan family, which was next door to the Feng Manor, was filled with red lanterns and a joyous atmosphere. As for the Guan family's ancestral home, after hearing the news, they all sat in the manor and sighed. One wrong step led to many wrong steps. If they had known this would happen, they would not have treated Guan Shilin like that. Otherwise, such an outstanding man would have been the pride of their Guan family. But now, no matter how outstanding he was, even if his surname was Guan, it had nothing to do with their Guan family. On the day of Guan Shilin and Yi Jing's wedding, they only invited a few close friends and family. There were not many outsiders. Even if quite a few people came from far away to congratulate them, they were unable to enter the Guan family's gates. After all, they were not normal people. They also needed to prevent others from taking advantage of this opportunity to cause trouble. Thus, everyone that entered the Guan family had to know their background. On this day, the Feng guards also stood guard outside the Guan Manor. Even Luo Yu and the others, after drinking a cup of wine, stood guard outside the manor. It was because of this that nothing happened on this day. Instead, Guan Shilin and Yi Jing's wedding was happily completed. Chapter 2850. As soon as he entered the room, his swaying footsteps stopped, and a smile appeared on his drunken face. He looked at the bride sitting by the bed, wearing a bridal gown and a red veil, and laughed foolishly. Big brother Guan, why are you laughing foolishly? Hurry up and take off the veil. We want to see the bride. A crowd had gathered outside the door, and half of them had squeezed into the room. That's right, that's right. We want to see the bride, and we want to make a scene in the bridal room. Someone joined in the commotion. Guan Shilin, who was about to walk to the bed, came back to his senses. He turned around, looked behind him, and said in surprise, "Why haven't you left yet? We were afraid that you would be too drunk to enter the room. Who knew that you would act as if you didn't drink at all? Big brother Guan, are you pretending to be drunk?" Ha ha! Everyone laughed heartily as they looked at Guan Shilin's happy face. They were all happy for him. Hee, brothers, you've seen the bride, and we've made a scene in the bridal room. That's enough. Do you think it's easy for me to get married? Every minute of the night is worth 1,000 gold. Isn't it time to go to the front yard and drink? Guan Shilin laughed loudly, and his smiling eyes swept across the crowd. He couldn't help but have the urge to touch his forehead when he saw that they were surrounding him and didn't want to leave. Thus he called out, "Xiao Jiao, Xiao Jiao." A corner of the roof tile was lifted, and Feng Jiao poked his head out with a smile. "Brother, are you looking for me?" Guan Shilin was startled when he heard the voice. He looked up, and his eyes widened in shock. "You, why are you on my roof? Isn't today your and sister-in-law's wedding night? I wanted to eavesdrop, but there were too many people in the corner, so I had no choice but to come up here," Feng Jiao said innocently, blinking his eyes and looking at him with a smile. Hearing this, Yi Jing, who was sitting on the edge of the bed, couldn't help but lower her head. Her beautiful face flushed red with embarrassment. None of them were serious. Even Feng Jiao was like that. "Xiao Jiao, you can't do this to your brother. Hurry up and help me bring them to the front for a drink. I'll thank you properly later." Guan Shilin helplessly cupped his hands and asked for her help. Feng Jiu chuckled. All right, since Big Brother has said so, then I have to help. She put the tile back and jumped to the ground. Today, she was wearing a green dress, which was also incomparably elegant. As soon as she arrived, the crowd below roared with laughter. Without needing her to say anything, they quickly retreated. Brother Guan, a moment in the spring is worth 1,000 gold. We won't delay your wedding night. I wish you and sister-in-law a chubby baby next year. Ha! The crowd chatted as they walked out. Gradually, only the few of them were left in the bustling inner courtyard. Feng Jiu smiled and poked her head in. Brother, sister-in-law, I'll be leaving too. She chuckled and walked out. Watching her leave, Guan Shilin breathed a sigh of relief. They're finally gone. These ancestors. He hurriedly closed and locked the door, closed the windows, and looked around before letting out a sigh of relief. Chapter 28:51. Yes, Yi Jing replied in a small voice. She was a little nervous. Guan Shilin picked up the wedding rod and carefully lifted the red veil on her head. She sat on the edge of the bed and looked up at him shyly. His heart skipped a beat when he saw her, and he grinned foolishly. Jing, you're so beautiful. He quickly lifted the veil and said, I'll help you take off the phoenix crown on your head. He carefully took off the phoenix crown on her head and placed it to the side. Jing, from today onwards, you're mine. He couldn't help but hold her hand. His heart was beating fast. From today onwards, he had a family. This family was different from his adoptive father's. She was his closest relative, and she was the one who would bear his children in the future. Looking at his fiery gaze, Yi Jing's delicate face flushed red. She lowered her eyes and said, I'll go take a bath and change my clothes first. You can sit for a while. After saying that, she got up and went to the back of the screen. Just then, there was a knock on the door. Brother Guan. It was Lung Hua's gentle voice. Coming. Guan Shilin stood up with a smile and went to open the door. Brother Guan, here are the wedding noodles you wanted. He handed the tray to him. Aha, Lung Hua, thank you. Guan Shilin took the tray with a smile. You're welcome. I'll go back now. I wish Brother Guan and sister-in-law a happy marriage. I hope you have a child soon. He turned and left. Guan Shilin closed the door and sat down at the table with his things. When he heard the sound of water coming from behind the screen, he could not help but feel thirsty. He stretched his head slightly to look at the screen, only to see a blurry figure. However, this blurry figure made him feel as if there was a fire burning in his body. He hurriedly poured himself a cup of water and drank it. Only then did he feel the fire in his heart subside slightly. After waiting for a while, he saw the graceful figure behind the screen step out of the bathtub. Those long, slender legs, that slender waist that couldn't be held, and those towering peaks that drew a perfect arc in front of her chest. He couldn't help but think of the secret book that Luo Yu and the others had given him. Thinking of the scenes in the book and seeing the alluring figure behind the screen, he only knew that the fire he had suppressed with great difficulty was surging up again, and it was getting out of hand. But when he looked over, he saw the graceful figure standing behind the screen. She seemed to be holding a piece of clothing in her hand, but she didn't seem to know what to do. He couldn't help but ask, Jing, are you done? His voice was a little hoarser than usual. I'm almost done. Yi Jing was afraid that he would come in. But when she held the translucent and sexy piece of clothing in her hand, her pretty face flushed red. She was a little shy and nervous. Feng Jiu said that he had prepared clothes for her. So it was just this one piece of clothing. But this one, how was she going to wear it out? He had never seen a piece of clothing with so little fabric, and it looked so strange. He didn't know how she got it. Jing, Guan Shilin called out again, confused. Why was she standing there without moving? What's wrong? Guan Shilin stood up and walked over to the screen. Do you need my help? Chapter 28:52. Guan Shilin was slightly startled, but he still responded. When he walked to the closet and opened it, he couldn't help but be stunned. There are no clothes in here. This shouldn't be. Hearing this, Yi Jing couldn't help but touch her forehead. This Feng Jiu, she was right. No wonder he took away all the clothes in her space a day in advance. So this was the reason. Ah Jing, there aren't any clothes behind the screen? Guanxilin asked in confusion. Looking at the clothes in her hand, Yi Jing's face turned slightly red. She whispered, There are? Then wear them. Guanxilin said, But these clothes. Clothes? Guanxilin was startled. He asked, What's wrong with the clothes? Ah Jing, hearing his voice, she gritted her teeth and said, Wait a minute, I'll come out as soon as I'm done. She looked at the two small things in front of her, took a deep breath, gritted her teeth, and put them on. After putting on the clothes, she looked down and couldn't help but feel even better. This simple thing was even more sinful than not wearing anything at all. There was a strange black undergarment on her chest that barely covered her chest. She was worried that the two thin strings would break at any moment. She also had a triangular pair of black pants on her lower body. The fabric was so thin that she didn't dare to look at it. This Fengjiu, what on earth did he do? It wasn't a surprise. It was more like a shock. After putting on the two small pieces, she put on the almost transparent gauze. She looked down, gritted her teeth, and walked out of the screen with a red face. Guanxilin was waiting outside the screen. Because he didn't dare to look at her beautiful figure, he stood with his back to the screen. Naturally, he didn't know what was going on behind him. When he heard the sound, he turned around to take a look. With one look, he could not help but be stunned. His breathing suddenly became hurried. A flame rose up from his body and rushed to a certain part of his lower body. Yi Jing, who had her head lowered and her face flushed red, inadvertently caught a glimpse of the change in his lower body. Her pretty face instantly turned as red as a cooked prawn. She said in a small voice, The clothes were prepared by little Nine. Her hands unconsciously crossed in front of her chest, but she didn't know that her breasts were exposed even more. Guanxilin was stunned by her breasts, and two streams of blood flowed down from his nose without him noticing. Yi Jing, who was blushing and looking down, suddenly saw a drop of blood on the ground. She was shocked and quickly looked up. She saw two lines of blood on his nose. His nose's nose. TSSSSSS noses. Are you okay? Why are you having a nosebleed? I'm fine. Guanxilin came back to his senses. He took out a handkerchief from his sleeve to wipe his nose. As he covered it, he glanced at Yi Jing's seductive figure. He cleared his throat and said, Ah Jing, there's some food here. Sit down and eat. Okay, Yi Jing responded and followed him to the table to sit down. However, wearing such a sexy and seductive dress, she also felt uncomfortable all over. Especially when she was eating, she felt his burning eyes on her body. Therefore, she asked in a low voice, Do you want to take a shower? Okay. Guanxilin stood up and reluctantly looked away from her. Get someone to prepare water for you. There's only water in there. Chapter 2853. Hearing this, Yi Jing's face turned even redder. Guanxilin entered the bathroom and came out after a quick shower. When he saw Yi Jing sitting in front of the dressing table and drying her hair, he walked up to her and took the handkerchief from her hand. Let me do it. He looked at the mirror and saw that one of them was standing while the other was sitting in front of the mirror. The reflection in the mirror was like a peach blossom and was extremely shy. When his gaze fell on the reflection in the mirror, his breathing involuntarily became heavier. Ah Jing, are you full? Why do I feel like you didn't eat much? There was still a lot of food left on the table. I'm full, she said softly. Seeing this, he helped her dry her hair and said, I'm not full yet. Eat a little more with me. Okay, she responded and went to the table with him. She sat beside him and watched him finish all the food she had left. She couldn't help but ask, Is it enough? If it's not enough, I'll get someone to send more. It's enough. He smiled and looked at her. Next, let's drink cross-cupped wine. As he spoke, he poured 2 cups of wine. They each held a cup and drank with their arms crossed. After drinking a cup of wine, he leaned closer to her and lifted her up. Ah Jing, let's go to bed. Yi Jing shyly buried her face in his chest and responded softly. She felt him carry her to the bed and put her down. The bed curtains were put down, covering the spring scenery on the bed. 3 days later, in the morning, everyone in the residence gathered in the living room. Even Guanxilin and Yi Jing were there. Seeing that everyone was present, Feng Jiu said, "Zay and I plan to leave. We don't know when we'll be back this time." "So soon?" Everyone in the living room was surprised and a little reluctant to leave. Feng Jiu smiled. "It's not soon. We've estimated the time we'll be back. Moreover, the journey from here to Punlai Island is not short. We can make arrangements in advance." She paused and smiled. "Moreover, my brother just got married. Naturally, he'll have to stay here longer. So, I plan to send Feng Yi and the others back. But you," Guan Shilin was a little hesitant. "Brother, you don't have to worry about us." Feng Jiu smiled and continued, "Based on your current cultivation level, you only need to lay a good foundation before you can break through to the next level. You can stay here and cultivate. That way, you can still take care of your family. There's no need for you to go out and train. When your strength reaches a certain level, you can go and challenge the immortal ascension stairs again." Hearing this, Guan Shilin nodded. "Xiao Jiu, Feng Jiu Mo's, Feng Jiu, Feng Jiu, Feng Jiu, Feng Jiu. Feng Jiu, Feng Jiu," said Feng Jiu, Feng Jiu, Feng Jiu. Hearing this, everyone fell silent and didn't say anything. It was Feng Sanyuan who said, "All right, then all of you prepare. We'll leave in the evening. This time, when we go to an unfamiliar place, we have to be careful. You have to know that no matter what, safety is the most important." "We know." They nodded. As if remembering something, Shengwan Wanru asked, "Little Nine, do you want to bring Hauer along? He's still so young." "Will he?" "Mother, how? Has an extraordinary background. No matter who I leave him with, I won't be at ease. I have to take care of him myself. Moreover, Lung Shuang and the others will help take care of him." "It'll be fine," Feng Jiu said with a smile. Chapter 2854. Feng Yi looked at his father and mother, then said to Feng Xiao, "I'm a man. When I become stronger, I'll come back." "Ha, good." Feng Sanyuan smiled happily and said with relief, "Then when you and Yang Yang return to your master's place, you must cultivate well. Don't make us worry." "And I know," Feng Yi replied. "Mother had people make some clothes for you and Yang Yang. Come, follow Mother to the courtyard and bring those clothes." Sushi said and went forward to hold his hand, bringing him and Yang Yang back to the courtyard first. "Then I'll go back and prepare. Zay, stay with grandfather and the others for a while." Feng Jiu said and left first. In the evening, Feng Jiu, Xinyuan Mose, and the others took them to the flying ship and left. Originally, they wanted to let Fire Phoenix stay, but who knew that they all said that it was useless for Fire Phoenix to stay. They forced her to take her away, leaving only the big black bear to guard the door for them. When they got on a flying ship, the contracted beasts were all walking around. Feng Jiu finally remembered the silver wolf she had forgotten. "That's right. Why didn't I see the silver wolf this time?" Because she didn't have a contract with the silver wolf, and because the contracted beasts usually walked around the manor, there were so many of them around her that she occasionally didn't notice that one was missing. When he heard this, Xinyuan Mose, who was teasing Hao paused and glanced at her. "I let Hao form a contract with that silver wolf. If you hadn't mentioned it, I would have almost forgotten about it. You let Hao contract with it." Feng Jiu looked in surprise at the child who was dancing in her arms. "And when we were preparing to come over, that wolf also said that it wanted to come. I thought that you had many contracted beasts around you, and you didn't have a contract with the Wolf King by your side, so I wanted to let Hao contract with it. This way, his safety would be more guaranteed," Xinyuan Mose said with a serious expression. However, there was an accident during the contract. When the blood contract was formed, that contracted beast became Hao-Er's servant beast. However, because of this, it fell into a coma and hasn't woken up in Hao-Er's spirit beast space. "Servant beast? You helped them form a master-servant contract?" Xinyuan Mose shook his head. "No. At that time, I didn't have time to use the master-servant contract on them, but the blood contract between the two sides was formed. Naturally, the master-servant contract was formed, and the Wolf King was sucked into Hao-Er's spiritual beast space." Hearing this, Feng Jiu blinked. "That silver is a divine beast Wolf King. How could something like that happen? I don't know about this either. I can only say that it should have something to do with how Er's identity, Xinyuan Mose said, looking at the child in his arms, also feeling very strange. Fengjiu looked at the child who was kicking his feet in Xinyuan Mose's arms for a long time, then smiled. No matter what, he is still our son. Anyway, with the two of us teaching him, it's fine as long as he doesn't become a bad child. She reached out and gently tapped the child's nose, smiling. Little fellow, don't you think so? Ah. Little Hao grinned, happily waving his hands towards Fengjiu, looking like he wanted to be hugged. Chapter 2855. Seeing that she was carrying the child, Xinyuan Mose walked to the front of the ship and looked into the distance. After a while, he seemed to remember something. He turned back and said, By the way, Imo-chun wanted to come with us, but I rejected him. I think he'll go to Penglai first. Imo-chun. Fengjiu nodded. He didn't think it was strange. Let him be. With his strength and temperament, he should be able to climb the immortal ascension stairs. She carried the child and walked to his side. Let's go see your father, then send Feng Yi and the others back. After that, we'll go directly to Penglai. Okay. Xinyuan Mose nodded. Feng Yi walked up from behind and asked in confusion, Xiaojiu, what kind of place is the immortal ascension stairs? What's on the immortal ascension stairs? What are you going to do there? Fengjiu smiled. It's a path that leads to another place, but only those with strength and temperament can climb it. You should go back and cultivate well. You could try going there in the future. Can Leng Hua and the others go up as well? He looked back curiously at Luo Yu and the others. Fengjiu smiled. They can't go up, but I have a way to bring them there. Seeing his hesitant expression, Fengjiu knew what he wanted to say. He patted his head and said, You're still young. Cultivate well here, and you won't have to worry about not having a chance. But Hao is even younger, he said softly. Hao is different. It's because he's too young that I have to bring him with me. She smiled and said, All right, look, Yang is sitting there cross-legged cultivating. You can't slack off either. Otherwise, you'll be weaker than Yang in the future. It'll be very embarrassing if she has to protect you all the time. I won't be weaker than Yang. I'll be stronger than her. He hurriedly ran back to Yang's side and sat down beside her. He also began to cultivate with her. The spaceship shuttled through the clouds, passing by one place after another. During this time, Fengjiu only rested, cultivated, and ate the things stored in the spaceship. When they arrived at the Xinyuan Empire, the flying ship stopped at the entrance of the Imperial Palace. When the guard saw the black and red figures coming down from the flying ship, they couldn't help but be shocked. They didn't even bother to salute and ran inside to quickly pass on the message. When the Emperor of the Xinyuan Kingdom heard from his subordinates that Xinyuan Mose and Fengjiu had arrived, he was slightly taken aback. They're back? He couldn't help but feel a little happy and a little nervous. The two of them had been in the upper continent for so long, and they finally knew to come back and take a look. Xinyuan Mose led Fengjiu into the inner palace. The two of them bowed to the person on the main seat. Greetings, Father. Emperor. Fengjiu greeted and bowed as well. However, she was carrying a child in her arms, so she only nodded slightly. When the Emperor of the Xinyuan Kingdom saw the child in Fengjiu's arms, he couldn't help but smile excitedly. This is your child? My grandson. Quick, bring him over here and let me take a look. When they heard this, the two of them looked at each other and smiled. Fengjiu walked forward with the child in her arms and looked at him excitedly. Why doesn't he look like the two of you? Chapter 2856. Hearing this, the emperor was stunned. You didn't give birth to him? No, but we adopted him. Fengjiu said, I see. No wonder he doesn't look like you at all. But he does look cute and delicate. The emperor handed the child back to Fengjiu and said, You two have been waiting for so long. I heard that your brother got married recently. Why aren't you two getting married? Father, we're not in a hurry. Xinyuan Mose said, We came back this time to see you. We might not be able to come back for a while. Hearing this, the emperor was stunned and asked, Why? The upper reaches isn't that far from here. You can come back as long as you take the time. Why can't you come back? Did something happen to you guys over there? No, We plan to go to Punglai Island to climb the immortal ladder. We plan to go to another place to cultivate. So we might not be able to come back for the next few years. Xianyuan Mo said. Hearing this, the Xianyuan emperor nodded. I know. There's indeed a legend about that place. However, can you find it? It's said that the immortal ladder is not easy to climb. If you're not careful, you'll fall from it and lose all your cultivation. We found it, and I've been there. There's nothing to be afraid of. Fengjiu said. Since you've decided, I'll respect your decision. But be careful. The emperor said. You haven't been back for a long time. Go and get some rest. I'll hold a welcoming dinner for you tonight. There's no need for a welcoming dinner. I'll bring them around the city tonight. We'll leave tomorrow. Xianyuan Mo said. Seeing this, the emperor nodded. All right, as you wish. Go. The two of them left and brought the people outside the palace to rest. Feng Yi, who didn't know what fatigue was, brought Yang around the palace. Leng Hua followed the two of them to prevent them from sneaking out of the palace. Luo Yu and the others had the imperial chef prepare some food, and the few of them began to eat and drink in the garden. Leng Shuang and Bai Qingsheng were resting in the room with Hao Xianyuan Mo's and Feng Jiu were also drinking in the courtyard. This place was not in the Feng Manor's territory. Thus, when they arrived, all the contracted beasts were put into her space. It was much quieter. Leaving tomorrow? Wasn't it too hasty? Once we leave, it won't be easy for us to come back. Feng Jiu said as he picked up a mouthful of food to eat. It's fine to stay here for a long time. Might as well go earlier, Xianyuan Mo said as he poured himself a glass of wine. Hearing this, Feng Jiu smiled and did not say anything else. The two of them ate in the courtyard and then took a nap. It was only in the evening that they took Feng Yi and the others out for a stroll in the city. The next morning, before the sun had even risen, they boarded the flying ship and left. A few days later, the flying ship entered the upper continent. Feng Yi and Zhao Yang were no longer in the mood to cultivate. This was because they knew that the day of their departure was coming. Feng Jiu, who saw all of this, called the two of them over and asked with a smile, What's wrong? Don't want to go back and cultivate? Or are you unwilling to part with us? Chapter 28:57. Upon hearing this, Feng Jiu chuckled and said, For cultivators, time flies like flowing water. Years, or even decades pass in the blink of an eye. Moreover, isn't today's parting so that we can reunite tomorrow? Feng Yi lowered his head and did not say anything. That was true, but they were about to part. They were reluctant to part. As the flying boat shuttled through the clouds, a few days later, they arrived at Wudong Mountain, where Feng Ye's master was. They did not go down. When they reached the mountain gate, they let Feng Yi and Zhao Yang go down on their flying swords. Go back and cultivate well. Don't think about anything else. Listen to your master obediently. When you have achieved something in the future, you can go back home to take a look or go out to explore. Feng Jiu patted their heads and said, Yes, we will. The two nodded and turned around to fly down on their flying swords. You guys take care too. Feng Yi turned around and waved as he shouted. His figure gradually disappeared until he returned to Wudong Mountain. Seeing that they had returned safely, Feng Jiu and the others also left on the flying boat. This time, they went directly to their destination, Punglai Immortal Island. 2 months later, when they arrived at Punglai Immortal Island and arrived at the city, Luo Yu and the others felt a little discouraged when they saw powerful people everywhere. They booked a few tables on the second floor and sat together. Luo Yu, who had been holding back for a long time, finally could not help but say, Why are the people here all so powerful? That shopkeeper just now, he's at the celestial sage level, right? He's so powerful, but he's only a shopkeeper? And those cultivators we met on the street just now, they're all at the celestial sage level, Fan Lin said. Fan Lin said, when he suddenly came to this place and saw the experts everywhere, his heart was still fiercely shaken. Hearing their words, Feng Jiu chuckled. They've all reached this level directly after consuming some things to increase their strength. Don't look down on them just because they're at this level. If they really fight, their combat power is still not solid. Moreover, they can only stay at this level for the rest of their lives and can't advance anymore. Hearing this, everyone understood. So that's how it is. "Sir, the dishes are here." The waiter was all smiles as he served them the dishes. After placing 3 plates of the same dishes on the table, he said, "The other dishes will be here soon. Guests, please eat with the wine first." After he finished speaking, he left. As they arrived early, they sat at the 3 tables facing the windows on the second floor. Xinyuan Mose and Fengjiu sat at the table in the middle, while Luo Yu and the others sat on the left and right. Unknowingly, the table in the middle to protect them. Even Ing and the others, who had been following them, follow Xinyuan Mose and sat to sit with the others' peoples. After all, they were outside, and they had to accompany and protect their masters, so they only tasted the wine and did not drink much. In addition to the wine and dishes, each table also had a large pot of stewed soup and a bowl of rice. The dishes they ordered were all signature dishes. They tasted good, and the portions were sufficient. Everyone was full. After the meal, Leng Hua saw that they were almost done eating and wanted to pay the bill first. Then he heard Fengjiu's voice. Chapter 28:58. Upon hearing this, Leng Hua froze for a moment, then asked, "Then what do they accept?" "Crystals." Fengjiu pursed his lips and smiled. He tossed a Qianquan bag to him from his space. "Take it." "Yes." After Leng Hua took it, he probed it with his divine sense and saw a bag of sparkling crystals. When he thought about how this place didn't accept gold coins but only crystals, he couldn't help but feel his heart ache. These crystals were much more valuable than gold coins. He took the crystals and went to pay the bill. When he came back, he saw Fan Lin, Du Fan, and Bai Qingsheng walking over. "Leng Hua, Master wants us to go buy some things." "Okay," Leng Hua responded. After saying goodbye to Fengjiu and the others, he followed them out of the restaurant. "Leng Hua, bring Hao to me," Fengjiu said. After having the waiter remove the bowls and chopsticks on the table, she had Leng Hua bring the child to her. "Yes." Leng Shuang responded and carried the child over to her, saying, "The little master ate a bowl of rice paste just now. When we get to the forest, we can eat whatever we want." "But how? Still needs to eat rice paste. We have to prepare more of these, in case he doesn't have anything to eat," Fengjiu said as he played with the child. "I just told Qingsheng to buy more." Leng Hua said, "That's good." She nodded. On the other side, Fan Lin said, "Let's go look at some medicinal herbs first. When we go out, we have to prepare some common medicinal herbs. Also, Master just said that because there are many medicinal herbs here, the prices aren't very expensive. We can buy more just in case." "Okay," they responded. After asking around, they went to the largest medicinal herb trading company in the city. Even though they were Fengjiu's subordinates, they dressed according to their personalities. Although they did not dress in the same way, the material of their clothes was still of high quality. Coupled with their extraordinary temperament and appearance, they naturally attracted some attention when they walked together. As soon as they entered the trading company, a medicine boy inside greeted them. "Young masters, may I know what you need? We are the largest medicinal herb trading company in the city, and we have the most complete collection of medicinal herbs. Let's take a look around first. If we need anything, we'll let you take it," Fan Lin said as he looked around to see if there were any medicinal herbs he needed. "All right, young master, if you need anything, just let me know," the apprentice said as he watched from the side. "Fan Lin, buy some anti-snake, insect, rat, and ant medicine." "We don't have much left," Du Fan said, waving the fan in his hand. "Young master, we have prepared a medicine that repels snakes, insects, rats, and ants," the medicine boy said from the side. Fan Lin shook his head. "No need. Give me the original ingredients. I want to take them back and prepare them myself." Hearing this, the medicine boy was stunned for a moment and quickly responded, "Okay, please wait for a moment. I will immediately pick out some original ingredients for young master." The medicine boy went inside and picked out a set of original ingredients. These were all taken back to grind and refine by oneself. Because the finished ingredients were not that expensive, most people would buy the finished ingredients directly. Very few people would buy the finished ingredients and grind them themselves. "Young master, please take a look. Is this enough?" The medicine boy picked out a set of ingredients and placed it on the table as he asked Fan Lin. Chapter 2859. The medicine boy was slightly taken aback when he heard this. He was puzzled. Why do you still need those things? However, he still answered and went inside to take out some of the medicinal herbs he wanted. He then picked another set. After checking, Fan Lin nodded and said, "Wrap these up first. We'll calculate them together later." "Yes, young master," the medicine boy said and followed them inside. When he saw suitable medicinal herbs, he would show them to Fan Lin and report the price of those herbs. After picking out the herbs, Fan Lin saw that some of them were for research. However, they didn't bring any grinding tools. Therefore, he asked, "You should have grinding tools here, right? Can I borrow them?" "Well, I'll have to ask the shopkeeper first," the medicine boy said. Fan Lin smiled and said, "Then tell your shopkeeper that I'll give you some extra crystals as payment." Hearing this, the medicine boy smiled and replied, "Okay, please wait for a moment, young master. I'll be right back." "We're going to grind here?" Du Fan raised his eyebrows. "Yes, we brought the pill furnace. However, we don't have all the grinding tools. If we borrow their tools, it shouldn't take long," Fan Lin said and said to them, "How about this? You can go and buy other things later. Come back and find me later." Seeing this, Lung Hua said, "Du Fan and Qing Qing go together. I'll stay and help." "Okay." Du Fan nodded and went to buy other things with Bai Qing Qing. Their master gave each of them a cosmos sack filled with crystals. Therefore, each of them had a lot of crystals on them. Du Fan and Bai Qing Qing were shopping in the shop. They walked through a few streets and bought everything they needed. Just as they were about to go back, they saw a man in brocade clothes who was riding a horse. He was looking at Bai Qing Qing, who was dressed in white. Du Fan frowned slightly and glanced at the man. He didn't say anything and just blocked the man's view with his body. They didn't want to cause trouble and make enemies in this place. "Why are you blocking me? Get out of my way." The man in embroidered clothes on the horse frowned and shouted. He was looking at the beautiful woman, not the scholarly man holding a fan. "Hee, young master is so overbearing." Du Fan smiled and didn't move aside. He only looked at the man in embroidered robes who was riding a horse down the cliff and said, "We aren't blocking your path. If you want to pass, then let us pass." He led Bai Qing Qing to the side and opened up a path. It was rare for him to make such a concession. "Chi," the man in embroidered clothes sneered, looking like a rich playboy. He raised his chin slightly and cast a sidelong glance at Du Fan. "Who do you think you are? There's nothing in this city that I can't get." As soon as he said that, he inexplicably thought of something that caused his expression to change for a moment. "Go. Bring that woman over so that I can have a good look at her." He gestured, and more than 10 celestial sage guards rushed forward and surrounded the two of them. Seeing this, Du Fan's gaze turned cold. Bai Qing Qing, who was behind him, walked out from behind him and stared coldly at the man on the horse. Chapter 2860. Du Fan glanced at the celestial sage cultivators surrounding them. His eyes flashed. He stopped by Qing Qing, who was about to step forward and gently wave the fan in his hand. "You want us to follow you?" That's right. The two of them had good looks and manners. They were even more outstanding than his guards. The woman in white, in particular, was very pleasing to the eye. It would be good to keep her by his side. Hearing this, Du Fan smiled and said, "Thank you for thinking so highly of us. We have 2 more brothers. Would you be interested in taking them in as well?" Bai Qing Qing was slightly stunned. She did not know what he meant. However, Du Fan's ability to adapt was much better than hers. Although she did not know what he meant, she believed that he must have a plan. Therefore, she stood quietly and did not speak. "Oh, there are 2 more?" The man's eyes lit up. "Where are they? How do they look? Are they magnanimous? What skills do they have?" "They are in the medicinal ingredient store on the next street. Although they are not as strong as your guards, in terms of looks and manners, your guards are not as good as us." Speaking of this, Du Fan's face bloomed into a smile. He gently fanned himself with the fan in his hand, looking very elegant. "Moreover, I am proficient in the art formations. The girl beside me is proficient in swordsmanship. As for the other two brothers, one is proficient in medicine, and the other is as meticulous as dust. He smiled and asked, "Would you like to take them in?" "Of course. Of course. Quickly, bring me there." The man in the brocade robe smiled. He waved his hand and let Du Fan and the others lead the way. The dozen or so celestial sage cultivators surrounding them naturally retreated and followed the two in front of them to the next street. At the Dragon Boat Festival, Lung Hua helped Fan Lin pack the ground medicinal powder. Just as he was about to pay, the shopkeeper looked at the two of them with a smile. "Young masters, would you be willing to sell us a pack of these medicinal herbs?" The shopkeeper asked. Hearing this, Fan Lin smiled and shook his head. "These are for personal use. They are not for sale." The shopkeeper, who had been secretly watching from the side, could not help but feel anxious when he heard this. "I am willing to buy them at double the price. Actually, I saw that your medicinal herbs are different from the ones made by our apothecary, so I thought, even if I give them to you, you can't make the same medicinal herbs as mine." Fan smiled and said, "In addition to your medicinal herbs, I have added other medicinal herbs. Even if I give them to your apothecary to make them, your apothecary, he can't make them." "This, young master, can we discuss this?" The shopkeeper tried to ask again. After all, the medicine in their shop was really not as good as this one. Fan Lin's eyes flickered when he saw the shopkeeper's reaction. "Shopkeeper, do you really want it?" To be. I can sell a pack to the shopkeeper, but it's 200 crystals per pack." He laughed and took out one of the packs. "How about it? 200 crystals?" The shopkeeper was stunned for a moment. The medicine he had just bought did not even cost 200 spar, but when he thought about it, maybe after getting that bag of medicine, they could concoct the same amount of medicine. If they sold it in the shop, the 200 spar would be earned back very quickly. He had seen them try the medicinal herbs behind them. Even the snakes did not dare to come close. It was definitely something good. Some of the people in the city saw that there was something interesting to watch, and some of them followed behind and talked about it. Among them, there are also some cultivators. These people are not very strong, but the young city lord has his eyes on them. However, these people have extraordinary temperaments. I wonder where they come from. Chapter 2862. Feng Jiao and the others, who didn't know what was going on, were still sitting in the restaurant. Because it was close to noon, there were more and more people. The tables on the second floor were quickly filled. Those who went up to the second floor all looked at Feng Jiao, Xinyuan Mose, and the others. Their eyes were filled with surprise, and one or two of them had a strange expression. "Hey, look at that woman in red. Doesn't she look like the person who taught the young city lord a lesson half a year ago?" Hearing this, the people at the same table all looked at the beautiful woman in red. With one look, they couldn't help but be startled. "It seems like it. I've seen that face before. It seems like it's her." For a moment, the few people who remembered how powerful this person was couldn't help but secretly guess. Which blind person would provoke her this time? Last time, the young city lord almost became her slave. In the end, it was the city lord who saved the young city lord. "You came here last time, too?" Xinyuan Mose asked. Because he heard those people's words, he knew that something unforgettable had happened here. Feng Jiao chuckled. Last time, the young city lord, Ling Tianyu, almost became my slave. Other than that, there's nothing else." Master, the ghost doctor, Du Fan, and the others are back. However, it seems like there are many people following behind them. Hui Lang, who was paying attention to the outside, looked at the people coming from the street. Feng Jiao glanced at the people on the street. Other than Du Fan and the others, he also saw the person who was talking just now, Ling Tianyu. "I met an old acquaintance again. What a small world." She sighed and shook her head in amusement. Xinyuan Mose looked outside. His gaze fell on the man in embroidered clothes who was riding a horse. He asked, "Who is this person?" "This is the young master of the city, Ling Tianyu," Feng Jiao said with a smile. Looking at the situation below, he said, "I guess his old illness is acting up again." "What kind of old illness?" Xinyuan Mose raised his eyebrows. "Robbing someone on the street." Feng Jiu said with a smile. As soon as she said that, Xin Yuan Mose's face darkened, and he glanced at Ling Yu with a heavy gaze. Did that mean that this brat had the idea of snatching his Jew back then? On the street, when Ling Tianyu saw the red figure sitting by the window of the restaurant from afar, she felt inexplicably uneasy. Why did he feel that something was amiss? That red figure also looked somewhat familiar. It seemed to be Feng Jiu. How could this be? That person had already gone to some unknown place. So why would he come here again? He must be thinking too much. However, even so, his heart was still in a mess. Especially when he saw the 4 people in front of him walking leisurely. He felt that something was wrong. These 4 people had not been afraid or panicked from the beginning. They even led him here. Were they sure that their master was more powerful than him? Thinking of this, he could not help but ask, the one in front, the one with the fan. Du Fan was startled. He turned around and asked with a smile, "Young master, are you calling me? My name is Du Fan, not the one with the fan." "Who cares what your name is? Let me ask you, what is your master's name?" he asked, staring at Du Fan. Chapter 2863. Seeing that they didn't say anything, Ling Tianyu couldn't help but hesitate, especially when he saw the red figure on the roof of the restaurant becoming clearer and clearer. He became even more nervous. Could it really be that pervert Feng Jiu? He immediately reined in his horse and refused to go forward. He stared at the second floor of the restaurant, but because there were some obstructions, he couldn't see clearly. However, when he was about to withdraw his gaze, he saw the red figure stretch out half of its body and casually lean against the window. When he saw the person clearly, he was so frightened that he cried out and rolled off the horse's back. "Young master!" No one expected that he would fall off the horse for no reason, and hurriedly went forward to help him up. "Quick, let's go." It was actually that pervert. It really was that pervert Feng Jiu. No, he had to turn back quickly, in case he was seen and couldn't leave. "Young master, you're not leaving?" Du Fan looked back and was a little surprised. "Cough." Ling Tianyu coughed lightly and said, "I suddenly remembered that there are some things that I need to deal with. Let's forget about today's matter. Hurry, let's go." He waved his hand and signaled for the guards to leave quickly. Just as he was about to get on his horse, he heard a voice that seemed to be laughing yet not laughing. "Ling Tianyu, your old habits are acting up again?" On the second floor, Feng Jiu looked at Ling Tianyu, who was so scared that he wanted to run away. He chuckled and said, "This time you have your eyes on my people? It seems that the lesson from last time didn't teach you a lesson." Hearing this voice, Ling Tianyu's body stiffened. For a moment, she didn't know whether she should leave or not. She stood there stiffly, not knowing whether she should leave or not. At this moment, the guard beside her was berating her. "Impudent! How dare you call the young master by his name?" shouted one of the guards. However, as soon as he finished speaking, he was slapped on the head. "Idiot! You're courting death." Ling Tianyu glared and cursed in a low voice. He looked at the second floor, gritted his teeth, and walked up. When he arrived at the second floor of the restaurant, he saw Feng Jiu, who was wearing a red dress, leaning against the wall. His eyes flashed. Last time, he knew that this guy was also a woman, but he didn't expect this guy to be so beautiful after wearing women's clothes. Just as he was looking, he suddenly felt a sharp and cold gaze land on him with a powerful pressure, causing him to be unable to breathe. He hurriedly returned to his senses, and only then did he notice that there was a handsome man in a black robe sitting beside Feng Jiu. At this moment, the black-robed man was staring at him with his deep and sharp black eyes. That gaze caused him to shiver. "Master, when we went shopping, we bumped into this young man. He said that he wanted to take us in. We thought that we should come back and ask for your opinion." Du Fan said with a smile and looked at Ling Tianyu with a teasing look. Hearing that, Ling Tianyu's skin tightened and his body stiffened. He glared at Du Fan and said, "If you had told me earlier that your master was such a pervert, I wouldn't have targeted you." "I didn't know," Du Fan said, waving his fan. Ling Tianyu gritted his teeth and ignored him. After taking a deep breath, he looked at Feng Jiu. "What are you doing here again? Aren't you worried that you'll meet the people who tried to kill you last time?" Feng Jiu glanced at him and said, "What? You're interested in the people around me again?" You want to make a bet with someone again? Chapter 2864. He looked at them and saw that there were about 10 of them. So he asked, "Did you just arrive? Do you want to stay in the mayor's mansion for a few days? If you need anything, I can get someone to help you." He knew them, so he didn't mind helping them. "No need, we plan to stay in an inn," Feng said. He looked away and said, "Since there's nothing else, you can go back. It's best if you change your old habits. If I encounter this kind of situation again, you should know what will happen." Hearing this, he inexplicably shivered and said, "I know." He quickly turned and left. He didn't dare to stay here any longer. After he left, Du Fan smiled and said, "Master, this brat seems to be afraid of you. He suffered at my hands before. How could he not be afraid?" Feng said. He looked at them and said, "Have you bought everything?" "We bought everything," they replied. "Then let's find an inn to rest. We'll continue on our way tomorrow," Feng said. He stood up and looked at Xianyuan Mose. "Let's go." And Xianyuan Mose replied. He then stood up and walked out with her. Behind them were Lung Shuang, who was carrying the child, and a few others. On the other side, after Ling Tianyu returned to the mayor's mansion, he went to his father and said, "Father, I met that pervert Feng again outside today." As he said this, he poured himself a cup of tea and drank it. Mayor Ling, who was drinking tea, heard this and couldn't help but choke. He coughed twice and asked, "What did you say?" "I said that I met that scourge Feng again outside today. I was so unlucky. The people I saw today were actually people by his side. If I didn't run fast enough, I would have been in trouble again." He frowned and thought about the people by Feng side. They were all very outstanding, and the man in the black robe was even more outstanding. Earlier, he noticed that there was a woman carrying a child behind him. When he thought about how that dazzling woman in red had given birth to such a child, he only felt his heart go up and down. She wanted to check out the situation again, but she was afraid that Feng would punish her if she was discovered. But if she didn't check it out, she would be very curious. "Feng is here again? What is she doing here this time?" City Lord Ling was startled and a little puzzled. After she left last time, he asked around and heard that she went to the Xie family in another city and caused quite a commotion. From the looks of it, she should have been heading towards the immortal ascension stairs. Why would she be here now? How would I know what she's here for? But this time, it looks like he's bringing his family with him. I wonder what he's going to do. Ling Tianyu said doubtfully, "With a family to feed? Then why didn't you invite her home?" "I called her, but she didn't come. She said she wanted to stay at an inn. If she didn't come, should I force her to come?" Besides, there was a man in a black robe sitting beside her. That aura. Ling Tianyu paused, as if thinking about how to describe it. "How is it?" City Lord Ling asked. He looked at his father and said, "It was a little scary." He looked at me, and I felt as if I had fallen into an ice cellar. I was scared from the bottom of my heart. Chapter 2865. Even his father had warned him not to offend such a person. Since she didn't want to come, it was better for them not to disturb her in order to avoid angering her. "Don't go out and cause trouble for me these days. Stay at home and cultivate, especially Feng Don't offend her again." Ling Tianyu's expression changed slightly. I know. He didn't dare to tell his father that Feng people were almost caught by him. On the other side, Feng and the others found an inn to rest. That night, they went to bed early to prepare for tomorrow's journey. It wasn't until the next morning that the group continued their journey after having breakfast that they hurried towards their destination. About half a month later, in the forest in a spacious grassland, Feng was sitting on a blanket on the ground and playing with Hauer, who was crawling around on the blanket. She was playing with a red fruit in her hand and called out, "Hauer, come here, crawl over here." "Aha!" The child grinned, revealing a few small teeth. He crawled towards Feng on all fours. He crawled faster and faster, and finally, he threw himself on her. Feng caught him and smiled. "Do you want to drink fruit juice? Come, stand up and walk a few steps." She held the child's hand and taught him to walk. His legs swayed slightly, and after taking a step, he threw himself into Feng arms. Seeing this, Feng smiled and said to Bai Qingcheng, "Squeeze out some fruit juice." At the same time, she threw a few red fruits to Bai Qingcheng. Yes. After Bai Qingcheng took it, she took out something from her space. It was a transparent cup with a small cover on top. After Bai Qingcheng put the fruits into the cup, she pressed down with something and squeezed up and down. Drops of fruit juice dripped into the cup. Master! Bai Qingcheng poured a small cup and handed it to him. Feng Jiu took a sip and put it to the side. She took out a small scarf and tied it around his neck. Then, she used a spoon to scoop some juice to his lips. Come, Niangqin will feed you some juice. Xianyuan Mose glanced at her from the side and couldn't help but feel a little jealous. Although this was their adopted son, Aju treated this child too well. It made him a little jealous. She was already like this now. What if they had their own children in the future? At that time, wouldn't he lose his status? Luo Yu and the others were on guard. Leng Hua was roasting food, and Leng Shuang was cooking porridge for Hao Er. Although they didn't have many people, it was just right. Moreover, they didn't encounter any attacks from ferocious beasts. After all, with Xianyuan Mose and Feng Jiu here, ordinary ferocious beasts didn't dare to come close. However, the ferocious beasts didn't dare to approach, but some mercenaries who didn't have eyes came over after smelling the fragrance. Especially when they saw that this was only a group of 12 people, and that there was a strange group with a child and 3 women. They didn't care about them at all. Hey brother, what are you roasting? It smells good. A burly mercenary came forward, but his eyes were looking back and forth between Feng Jiu, Bai Qingcheng, and Leng Shuang. Chapter 2866. The woman in red was lazily and casually sitting on the blanket, feeding the child. Her lazy expression was extremely alluring and seductive. Just a glance from her made his heart skip a beat. What a stunner. However, just as his eyes were about to reveal his lust, 2 leaves flew towards him. He was shocked and didn't even have time to dodge before his eyes hurt. Hiss! A mournful scream pierced through the sky, startling the birds on the branches and causing them to flap their wings and flutter in the air, causing the leaves on the trees to fall one after another. This also caused the mercenaries who came from behind to quickly draw their sword from their waists and charge forward. As for the mercenary, he stood there trembling. His hands were covering his eyes as blood gushed out from his eyes, staining his hands red. The blood flowed down his cheeks and dripped onto the ground, sinking into the grass and soil. When the mercenaries saw this scene, the 2 leaders narrowed their eyes and sized up the 12 people. In the end, their sharp gazes landed on Xianyuan Mose, who was dressed in a black robe, and Feng Jiu, who was dressed in a red dress. From their point of view, they could naturally tell at a glance that these 2 people were the masters of the 12 people. However, why was this group bringing along a baby? With Luo Yu and the others guarding, the mercenaries didn't set foot in their area. Even the blind mercenary was standing 2 to 3 meters away from Luo Yu and the others. My eyes! My eyes! I'll kill you all! He screamed angrily. His bloody hands drew the large sword from his waist and slashed wildly. Seeing this, Huilang's eyes flashed with killing intent. He attacked with his sharp sword at an extremely fast speed. How dare you be so impudent in front of us? Whoosh! The long sword was deflected by a mercenary behind him. The leader of the mercenaries stared at Huilang and at the same time held down the blind mercenary, saying, Your Excellency and the others have already injured my mercenary's eyes. Don't tell me you want to take his life. You've gone too far. Luo Yu sneered and said, Your mercenary offended my master. I'm already being merciful by not killing him. Hearing this, the mercenaries stared at Luo Yu and the others with murderous intent. One of them shouted, Leader, kill them. A mere dozen people dare to go against us. In my opinion, they're tired of living. That's right. Kill them. Kill them. The dozens of mercenaries raised the swords in their hands and shouted. Their eyes were filled with killing intent as they stared at Luo Yu and the others. Especially when they saw the 3 beautiful women behind them. Evil thoughts involuntarily surfaced in their hearts. In this place, if one wanted to see a female cultivator, they would be able to do so. Moreover, There were 3 extremely beautiful women among this group of people. In this place, beautiful women were more tempting than treasures. Leader, kill them all and snatch those girls over. That's right, kill the men. Kill the men. That's right, destroy it. Rob my mother. Chapter 28:67. He only saw that the enchanting woman in red waved her sleeves, and one by one, mythical beasts appeared in front of her. Among them, there was even a fire phoenix flapping its wings. Hiss! That was an ancient mythical beast. Where did this woman come from? One mythical beast contract was enough to shock everyone, but there were so many of them. Roar! Almost in the blink of an eye, the roars of beasts spread through the forest, and the powerful pressure of mythological beasts assaulted the mercenaries. In the blink of an eye, the several contract beasts standing in front of the red-clothed woman leaped and surrounded them. The powerful mythical beasts came from all directions, and above them, there was a fire phoenix flapping its flaming wings and staring at them. Not to mention anything else, just the mythical beast circling above their heads was enough to make their legs tremble, and they fell to their knees. They were no match for the mythical beasts. Under that mythical beasts, they didn't even have the strength to stand. Even the 2 leaders were trembling, and they were barely holding on, but in the end, they fell to their knees as well. You want to attack us? Let's ask them first, Fengjiu said casually. He glanced at the mercenaries and ordered the fire phoenix, don't leave a single one alive. When Fengjiu said that, Luo Yu and the rest didn't make a move. Instead, they took a few steps back and waited quietly. The fire phoenix and the rest were more than enough to deal with these people, and they didn't even need to make a move. No, don't. The leader of the mercenaries recovered from his shock. He tried to persuade Fengjiu to change his mind and spare their lives, but before he could finish, he spat out a mouthful of blood. Then, the roars of the mythical beasts and the screams of the mercenaries rang in their ears. The smell of blood permeated the air, and the corpses were stacked on top of each other. They looked on coldly, unmoved. These people weren't kind people. If they were stronger than them, they would be the ones to fall, and they would die even more miserably. Therefore, they didn't even blink when they saw the fire phoenix and the rest kill these mercenaries. There are many mercenaries here, and we are few in number. I think we will be washed along the way. How about this? Other than the fire phoenix, let Lao Bai and Tunyan out for a walk, Fengjiu said, and handed her to Lung Shuang before he stood up and walked to the front. Don't let their belongings. Master, don't worry, we know. Luo Yu grinned. Xin Yuan Mose came to her side and asked, did you do this yourself last time? Hearing this, Fengjiu, Luo Yu, and the rest of the fire phoenix and kill me. I've killed those who deserve to be killed. I've never been soft-hearted. However, last time, I didn't meet these blind people, and it was convenient and inconspicuous for me to travel alone. Master, the stairway of immortality opens once a year. Are there many people coming here every year? Du Fan asked. Chapter 28:68. Almost at the same time, the figure of the fire phoenix flashed and transformed into an ordinary little bird. It flapped its wings and landed on a branch, while Tunyan and Old White continued to look at the cultivators who were approaching them. The pressure of these contracted beasts is too strong, and it attracted the attention of some experts in the forest. Xin Yuan Mo said, and stood with his hands behind his back. He looked at the few immortal supremes who stopped about 10 meters away from them in a few breaths of time. The few immortal supremes stopped in mid-air, and when they saw the 2 sacred beasts and the corpses on the ground, they couldn't help but be secretly shocked. They had just felt the strong pressure and hurried over to take a look, but they didn't expect to see the 2 sacred beasts exterminating an entire mercenary group. Their gazes swept across the dead mercenaries' uniforms, and they gasped slightly. They all knew about this mercenary group. Due to their strength and numbers, they were doing the business of looting here. No one had ever dared to go against them. Even if they encountered them, they would quickly leave after handing over their belongings. But now, they had fallen here. They retracted their gazes and looked at the people below. Their gazes swept past Luo Yu and the others, and landed on Xianyuan Mose and Fengjiu. When they saw the two young men and women whose strength they couldn't see through, they didn't dare to stop in midair and look down at them with a condescending attitude. On the contrary, after they looked at each other, they descended from midair and landed on the ground. Everyone has gotten rid of a threat for this forest. Please accept our greetings. After thinking for a while, they didn't ask anything else, and first cupped their hands and bowed. Xianyuan Mose's expression was indifferent, and Fengjiu had a faint smile on his face. They looked at the few old men in front of them, and finally, Fengjiu said, "You're exaggerating. If these mercenaries didn't have evil intentions, we wouldn't have done anything." Hearing this, the few of them couldn't help but be moved. Does that mean that as long as people don't offend her, she won't offend them? As a result, they heaved a sigh of relief. This team only had a mere 10 people, but they were able to exterminate the mercenary team that had more than 10 people. This was not only because of the two sacred beasts, but also because this black and red, male and female, these two were unfathomable and extremely powerful. They, who had seen countless of people, could feel an oppressive chi the moment they met. It was imaginable how strong these two were to be able to make immortal venerables feel oppressed. Excuse me for asking, but why have you all come to this forest? This place was extremely dangerous. In addition to the ferocious beasts that roamed about, there were also mercenaries that robbed and killed. Ordinary people would not set foot in this place, but these dozen people had brought a child here. It was really strange. Since I had nothing to do, I decided to come out and have some fun. I heard that there's a stairway to immortality in this forest. Naturally, I wanted to take a look, Fengjiu said in a half-serious manner. On the other side, Luo Yu and the others had already taken out the valuables from the mercenaries. When they were about to hand it over to Fengjiu, she waved her hand and said, "Just keep it. If you can use it, take it." Hearing this, the few immortal venerables were stunned again. Those mercenaries were not lacking in valuables, but this woman just waved her hand and gave all those valuables to these people. These people didn't look strong and were probably just their subordinates, but she treated them so generously. Chapter 28:69. Is there anything else? Fengjiu turned and glanced at the immortals. Hearing this, the immortals paused and hurriedly said, "No, then we'll take our leave first." They didn't know what else to say, so they bowed and turned to leave. After they left, Fengjiu asked them to clean up the corpses, and the group moved to a cleaner place to rest. Under the night sky, Xianyuan Mose asked Ying, Yi, and Huilang to go ahead and check out the immortal ascension stairs. Fengjiu was worried that they would meet strong cultivators, so she asked the fire phoenix to go with them. Thus, the two of them and the beast took advantage of the darkness and went deeper into the forest. The next morning, Fengjiu woke up to Hao Er's cries. She looked at the child sleeping in her arms and reached out to touch him. Her hand was wet. She called out, "Lung Shuang, help Hao Er change out of his clothes." Yes. Lung Shuang came forward and carried the child over. Fengjiu looked around and didn't see Xianyuan Mose. She turned to Lung Hua and asked, "Where is he?" "Yama Lord went to wash up. There's a spring not far ahead." "He's there," Lung Hua said. Fengjiu nodded. She got up and tidied her slightly messy hair. She yawned and said, "We won't leave today. Let's wait here for Huilang and the others to come back." "Okay," the immortals replied. Seeing that they were all awake, they prepared to eat. Some of them cooked porridge, while others cooked simple dishes on small stoves piled up with stones. They had a lot of food and tools in their space. As long as they started a fire, they could cook whatever they wanted. It didn't feel like they were in the wild forest. Instead, it felt like they were in their own backyard. Fengjiu also walked towards the mouth of the spring and prepared to wash up. When he got there, he saw Xianyuan Mose walking towards him. "Are you done washing up?" Fengjiu asked. Seeing that he seemed to be holding something in his hand, he stuck his head out to take a look. "These are raspberries. I saw that they had grown quite a lot earlier, so I picked some for you to eat." He passed the raspberries wrapped in leaves to her. You can eat them directly. I've washed them. There's actually such a thing. This raspberry is sweet and sour. It tastes really good. When Fengjiu saw it, her eyes immediately turned into crescents. She happily took it and said with a smile, "Thank you." "Silly girl, there's no need to thank me." He shook his head and smiled. "Where did you pick it? Are there any more? Let's go pick more," Fengjiu said, picking up one to eat and then put another to his lips. Xianyuan Mose opened his mouth and ate as he said, "There's a big patch over there. If you want to eat more, we can go pick more." "Okay, I'll go wash my face first." Thus, Xianyuan Mose accompanied her to the mouth of the spring. After she finished washing up, he brought her to the patch of raspberries. "It's here. Look, there's a big patch. Wow. There's really a lot." She looked at the bright red raspberries in front of her in surprise. Her eyes narrowed into slits as she smiled. "If these raspberries are made into fruit juice, it'll be very delicious." "No, I have to pick all of them before Hui Lang and the others come back." She took out something to pack the raspberries. When she was about to walk in, Xianyuan Mose pulled her back. She looked back at him and asked, "What's wrong?" Chapter 2870. Seeing this, Fengjiu paused for a moment, then followed him in. "It's all right, these are just small thorns. They won't hurt me." The two of them picked the mountain mold, while Lung Hua and the others were preparing food. Seeing that they hadn't returned for a long time, they came over to take a look. When they saw that the two of them were picking the bright red raspberries, they also went in to help. Not long after, the entire patch of raspberries had been picked. Looking at the raspberries, Du Fan asked, "Master, are we going to eat them like this?" "Yes, you can eat them like this. You can even make them into sauce. They're quite nutritious." As Fengjiu spoke, he handed over a large basin of raspberries and said, "Take this to the spring and wash it. Be careful not to spoil it." "Okay," Du Fan replied, then said, "Lung Hua's raspberries are ready to eat. Master, Yama Lord, you could go back first." "Okay." Fengjiu took out some water and washed Xianyuan Mose's hands, then washed his own before heading back. It wasn't until afternoon that Hui Lang, Ying Yi, and Fire Phoenix returned. "Master, Ghost Doctor." They came forward and called out, "You're back. How is it?" Xianyuan Mose asked. "Master, the Immortal Ascension Ladder is still there, and there are quite a few cultivators there. We heard that the Immortal Ascension Ladder that appeared this time had always been there, but apparently only one person had gone up not too long ago." "Oh, it's still there? That's strange." Fengjiu was slightly surprised. After all, from the information she had gathered, the Immortal Ascension Ladder appeared once a year. At most, it would remain there for half a month before disappearing, and it had already been half a year since she had last been there. Also, according to what those people said, I think that the person who went up was young Master Mo Chun, Hui Lang said excitedly. At that time, young Master Mo Chun even said that he wanted to come with us to the Feng Manor. Master didn't let him come with us, but who would have thought that he would come here first? He even went up the Immortal Ascension stairs and didn't come down. Hearing this, Fengjiu was slightly surprised. Then he chuckled. "If it's him, it's not a problem." She looked at Xianyuan Mose and said, "I didn't think that the Celestial Ascension stairs would still be here. Since that's the case, let's speed up." "Yes." Xianyuan Mose nodded his head in acknowledgement. In his mind, he was wondering where Mo Chun had gone. What was waiting for them on the other side? "Take a rest first. Even if you want to leave, there's no rush. Rest well today. It won't be too late to leave tomorrow," Fengjiu said with a smile. "There's freshly roasted meat and other food. You guys should eat more." "Thank you, Ghost Doctor," the two replied and walked to the side. The Fire Phoenix flapped its wings and came to rest beside her. They rested there until the next morning, when the group of people flew on their swords and headed towards their destination. In the forest, Tun Yun and Lao Bai, the two contracted beasts, ran on the ground. They crossed the grass and followed them all the way to the Immortal Ascension stairs. In the evening, as they got closer to their destination, they slowed down their pace. Fengjiu held Xianyuan Mose's hand and looked back at the group, saying, without a certain level of strength, you can't go up the immortal ascension stairs. With your current strength, you won't be able to go up. But now that you're here, it would be a pity if you don't take a look. Chapter 2871. Thank you, Master, they replied. They knew that they could not attempt it with their current strength. Otherwise, the pressure from the heavens and earth would be too strong, and they would not be able to withstand it. However, they did not know how their master would bring them up. At night, Luo Yu and the rest arrived at the immortal ascension stairs. They looked at the stairs that seemed to extend from the heavens and could not help but exclaim in awe. This was the immortal ascension stairs? It was said that there were 99,999 steps. If they walked up from here, they would be able to reach another world. When they thought of this, they could not help but feel excited. I really want to give it a try, Luo Yu said as his eyes fell on the immortal ascension stairs. With your current strength, you won't be able to go up. Furthermore, if you are not careful, your cultivation will be crippled. An old man who was sitting cross-legged said as he stroked his beard. He did not care whether they agreed or not, and continued. If it was so easy, there wouldn't be so many people who left this place with their tails between their legs. I'll go with you. Let's see how many steps you can reach. Fengjiu's voice came from behind them. They turned around and saw her and the Yama Lord walking towards them. Behind them were Lung Shuang and Bai Qingcheng, who were carrying their children. Master, they called out, let's go. I think you should be able to reach within 100 steps. Just do your best. There's no need to force yourself. Even if you can't reach the top, it will strengthen your will. It will be a good experience. She gestured for them to walk towards the immortal ascension stairs. Hearing this, the few of them replied, yes. They stepped forward, took a deep breath, and stepped onto the stairway of immortality. Fengjiu turned her head slightly and said to Xinyuan Mose, I'll accompany them. You guys can rest here for a while. Xinyuan Mose nodded, then led Lung Shuang, Bai Qingcheng, Hui Lang, and Ying Yi to rest. It was already late at night, and it was time for everyone to rest. Who would have thought that there would be people trying to climb the immortal ascension stairs in the middle of the night? In an instant, all the cultivators who were resting sat up and stared at the people who were trying to climb the immortal ascension stairs. There were 4 men, and they all looked quite young. Moreover, their strength could be said to be the weakest among them. As for the red-clothed woman behind them, her steps were light and graceful. Her red dress fluttered in the wind, and her skirt fluttered in the wind. She was extremely charming. In particular, the scene of the red-clothed woman following behind the 4 people in an unhurried manner, in a protective manner, was even more astonishing. How can a mere woman be so confident? This woman looks familiar. She seems to have been here before. She also went up the immortal ascension stairs before coming down again. A cultivator said as he stared at the red-clothed woman. Then he mumbled, but the last time, she was dressed as a man. But that face, it looks like it's the same person. Look, they really went up. Someone shouted, pointing at the people who were trying to climb the immortal ascension stairs. They had been here for so long, but they had never seen anyone try to climb the immortal ascension stairs in the middle of the night. They wondered if there would be any difference between day and night. At the same time, Lung Hua and the others who were on the immortal ascension stairs felt as if they were stepping on air. At that moment, they heard their master's voice. Chapter 2872. After hearing her words, they immediately followed her instructions. After balancing the spiritual energy in their bodies, they walked up the stairs. As they walked, they heard their master's voice behind them. Discard all distracting thoughts. Be firm in your beliefs. Don't hesitate when you take a step. Fengjiu watched them from behind. He watched as the 4 of them walked up the ladder step by step. Lung Hua felt that every step he took was as smooth as the ground. He walked up step by step without feeling any pressure. After about 50 steps, he finally felt the strong pressure from the immortal ascension ladder. He adjusted his breathing and continued walking. He tried to calm himself down and not think about anything else. Luo Yu, Fan Lin, and Du Fan were originally only 1 or 2 steps away from each other. However, When they reached 50 meters, their speed clearly slowed down. They looked ahead and realized that it was different from what they had seen below. From below, they saw that it was pitch black. However, when they reached the top, they realized that the immortal ascension ladder was as bright as day. The ladder formed under their feet. Other than the fact that they couldn't see their surroundings, it was still very bright. They were clearly in the same place, but their vision was different. They couldn't help but feel that it was novel. Fengjiu walked behind them and watched as they walked up. When they reached the 80th step, Fan Lin, Luo Yu, and Du Fan's foreheads were already sweating. Their expressions changed slightly, but they still gritted their teeth and tried to continue walking. After they lifted their feet and tried to take a step forward, Fengjiu's voice sounded in their minds. 88 steps. That's about it. You guys can go down first. Let Leng Hua, Qing Cheng, Hui Lang, and Ying Yi come up. They calmed down and heard her words. When they looked up, they couldn't help but be stunned. Leng Hua was still in front of them. He was even walking up the ladder. When they saw this, they were slightly surprised. However, they didn't say anything. Instead, they bowed to Fengjiu and turned to walk down the ladder. After watching them leave, Fengjiu looked at Leng Hua in front of him and followed him. Leng Hua walked up. Everything in front of him was a vast expanse of whiteness. He didn't know how many steps he had taken. He only wanted to take as many steps as he could. He was different from the others. His body had been weak since he was young. Being able to stay by his master's side was a blessing that he had accumulated over several lifetimes. He had been working hard, hoping that he could become stronger and be able to protect his master. He thought that since Luo Yu and Du Fan were stronger than him, they must be ahead of him. Although he didn't know how far ahead they were, he had to work hard and not be left too far behind. Thus, he walked forward step by step. The conviction in his heart allowed him to walk forward without any hesitation. He couldn't hear anything around him. He only felt that it was very quiet. Even his master had disappeared. However, he knew that even if he couldn't see where his master must be looking at him. Therefore, he couldn't let his master down. Fengjiu followed behind and watched. He was slightly surprised. She didn't expect that Leng Hua, the weakest of the four, would be the one who walked the furthest. Seeing him walk forward without hesitation, she couldn't help but smile. Chapter 2873. Du Fan and the others came to Xianyuan Mo's side and said, "Yama Lord, Master wants Hui Lang and Leng Shuang to go up." "Then you can go up," Xianyuan Mo said. He carried Hao in his arms and found a place to sit down. "Yes." The others answered and walked up. Du Fan saw this and quickly told them what Fengjiu had said to them. Then he watched them walk up the ladder. Seeing that Leng Hua had not come down after so long, he couldn't help but mutter, "I didn't expect Leng Hua to go the furthest among us." Fan Lin looked up and said, "He's been with Master the longest and has been trained by him. It's not surprising that he went further than us." "That's true. But when I think about how he's the weakest among us, but he went the furthest, I feel a little useless." Luo Yu sighed and found a place to sit down cross-legged. "I wonder how far he'll go," Du Fan said as he looked at the figure on the ladder. They could still see about 100 steps up. Therefore, they also noticed that Leng Hua was walking slower and slower. Their master was following behind at a moderate pace. "Hey, who do you think will go the furthest among the four of Hui Lang and Leng Shuang?" Luo Yu looked at the others and asked. "I think by Qing Cheng and Hui Lang came down first, followed by Leng Shuang." "And he should go the furthest," Du Fan said. Fan Lin shook his head. "Not necessarily." "Not necessarily?" The others looked at him. "Yes, Leng Shuang's temperament might even be better than Ying Yi's." Fan Lin looked at the figures and then at Leng Hua. "You know how Leng Shuang protected Leng Hua before she met Master. Her temperament is definitely better than Leng Hua's. Even Ying Yi can't compare." Hearing this, the others fell silent. Maybe it was true. Xianyuan Mo's, who was sitting to the side, heard their conversation and smiled slightly. He played with Hao in his arms and didn't say anything. Just then, thunder suddenly fell from the clouds. The sound of thunder shook the hearts of the people below. They looked up and saw that Lung Hua was already sitting cross-legged on the 100th step, being tempered by the thunder. He advanced? Luo Yu looked at Lung Hua enviously. He could advance just by going up the immortal ascension stairs? Yes, he advanced. Didn't Master say that? Before the 100th step, one's will be tempered. After the 100th step, one can advance and break through. Du Fan exclaimed. Lung Hua not only has a strong will, but he's also very lucky. He made a breakthrough in his temperament and then naturally advanced to the next level. As Xin Yuan Mo spoke, he looked at them with his deep, dark eyes and said, "If you can reach the 100th step, then your chances of breaking through to the next level are very high." Chapter 2874. It turned out that as long as they had a strong will and were not disturbed by external factors, they could break through their limits. However, they had let go of such an opportunity. Lung Hua was originally a cultivator who had just entered the nascent soul stage. Compared to them, who were at the peak of the nascent soul stage, he was still weak. However, once he advanced, he would break through to the fairy realm. His strength would be above them. When they thought of this, they could not help but have the urge to try again. This was not because they were jealous of his strength, but because they hoped that they could rely on themselves to advance and enter the fairy realm. In the future, when they went to another world, they could be of help to their master. With a thought, they looked at Xin Yuan Mose, who was sitting at the side, and asked, "Yama Lord, can we go up and try again?" When he heard this, Xin Yuan Mose turned to look at them. "It's not suitable. If you go up again, you won't advance like Lung Hua. Instead, you will be suppressed by the pressure." But Luo Yu wanted to say something more, but he was interrupted by Du Fan. "We understand." As Du Fan spoke, he pressed on Luo Yu's shoulder and said, "It's not suitable. The first 100 steps train one state of mind. We missed the opportunity, and we can't go up again in a short period of time. Moreover, if we blindly try to be like Lung Hua, I'm afraid we will be injured. When that happens, we will definitely become a burden to our master." When he heard this, Luo Yu stopped thinking and did not say anything else. They were not Lung Hua. What Lung Hua could do, they might not be able to do. Even if Lung Hua did not look very outstanding, they had to admit that he was more outstanding than them. At this moment, the second bolt of lightning fell from the sky. Feng Jiu retreated to the side and watched. She watched as Lung Hua endured the tempering of the second bolt of lightning and worked hard to enter the fairy realm. She smiled from the bottom of her heart. He was worthy of being the person she had chosen. His temperament was indeed extraordinary. One had to know that Lung Hua's cultivation was slower than others. He couldn't even cultivate in the past. But now, his progress was faster than others. She watched as he sat there cross-legged, controlling his spiritual power to circulate in his dantian, waiting for the third bolt of heavenly thunder to strike. Thus, she walked down to where Lung Shuang and the others were. They didn't know how long it would take for Lung Hua to advance. They wanted to see how far Lung Hua and the others could go. Therefore, she walked to their side and observed them unhurriedly from behind to see where their limits were. At the bottom of the immortal ascension stairs, the cultivators were dumbfounded. The pressure on the immortal ascension stairs is so strong. How can that woman in red walk up and down so freely? Some of the cultivators who had seen Feng Jiu before whispered, "You don't know. Last time this woman came here, she seemed to have reached the top, but for some reason, she came back down. Don't look down on her, because she's a woman. Her power is unfathomable. I think she's stronger than all the cultivators here." Hearing this, the cultivators were shocked. They couldn't help but whisper among themselves. Their gazes fell on the immortal ascension stairs. This time, 2 men and 2 women went up. The 2 women were extremely beautiful, but they didn't seem to be very powerful. How far could they go? Chapter 2875. Only then did they feel the pressure grow heavier. It felt like a mountain was pressing down on them, making it hard for them to breathe. They could not even take a single step forward. Bai Qingqing's face grew paler as she walked. She suddenly drew her sword and slashed at her surroundings. I'm going to kill all of you. I'm going to kill all of you. She screamed at the top of her lungs. Her eyes were bloodshot, as if she had been possessed. Her voice was filled with hatred and grief. At this moment, in front of her, what she saw was an illusion from the stairway of immortality. She saw her entire clan being annihilated. Those black-robed men were killing her clansmen. She saw her parents lying on the ground, covered in blood. She rushed forward, waving her sword and slashing wildly in an attempt to kill those black-robed men. Behind her, Fengjiu saw her waving her sword and screaming wildly. He knew that she had been bewitched. He glanced at the people in front of him. Seeing that they were not affected, he rushed forward, knocked her unconscious, and sent her down. Catch! She directly sent her down the immortal ascension stairs and gestured for Luo Yu and the others below to catch her. Luo Yu and Du Fan rushed forward to catch her. They quickly carried the unconscious by Qing Cheng to Fan Lin. Quick, check on her. How is she? Fan Lin checked her and said with a serious expression, her mind is in a mess. The blood in her body is flowing in the opposite direction. Fortunately, she was sent down by Master. Otherwise, she would have been in grave danger. Hearing this, the two of them were shocked. She was so powerful. If they had not come down, would they have been in the same state as her? On the immortal ascension stairs, Lung Shuang, Hui Lang, and Ying Yi were walking at about the same pace. They had already reached more than 70 steps. Luo Yu and the others below could not help but stare at them. These guys, how are they so much stronger than us? It had to be said that he felt it was unfair when he saw this. As the 8 captains of the Phoenix Guard, there was no need to mention their strength, yet in the end, they were actually inferior to Lung Shuang and Lung Hua. What's more, even Hui Lang, who was usually quiet, had a stronger temperament than them. This was simply too much of a blow to them. Fan Lin looked at the people on the ladder of immortality and said, Lung Shuang will follow Master. Needless to say, Ying Yi is the head of the Yama Lord Shadow Guards. His temperament is extraordinary. The only surprising one is Hui Lang. He usually doesn't seem very reliable, but I didn't expect him to be so determined. Among the 3 of us, Fan Lin, you specialize in medicine and alchemy, so your weakness is one thing. However, if Luo Yu and I are weak, then it's a little inexcusable. Looks like we'll have to work harder in the future. Du Fan sighed softly. That's right. I must double my cultivation. Otherwise, I'll really be left behind. Luo Yu nodded in agreement. At this moment, the 3 of them simultaneously reached the 98th step. They stopped and felt a surge of spiritual energy in their bodies. Calming themselves down, they turned around and saw Fengjiu not far behind them. Master, I feel like I'm about to break through. Lung Shuang said. His cold voice contained a hint of excitement. I feel like I'm about to break through too. The energy in my Dantian is already surging. Hui Lang said, touching his Dantian. Chapter 2876. After taking another 5 steps, he could no longer take another step. Only then did he stop. At this time, the spiritual energy in his body surged. The powerful spiritual energy converged into a stream and rushed towards his Dantian. Quickly sit down and guide your spiritual energy. Fengjiu's voice directly entered his mind, causing him to suddenly wake up from his stupor. Almost instinctively, he did as he was told. At the same time, Lung Shuang and Hui Lang also sat down cross-legged and prepared to advance. Seeing this, Fengjiu took a deep breath and slowly exhaled. He retreated to the side and watched them. Could it be that those people are also going to advance? What kind of freaks are they? They don't look strong, but they actually reached the 100th step? The cultivators below widened their eyes. They could no longer see the figures of those people beyond the 100th step. However, they did not see them coming down. Furthermore, there was a strange phenomenon in the sky. They knew that those people were definitely about to advance. Looking at the scene above, Xin Yuan Mo's glanced in a certain direction and said to Luo Yu and Du Fan, "Go and replace Wei Feng and Gu Mo." Hearing this, They finally remembered that they had not seen the two of them since a while ago. Hence, Luo Yu asked, "Yama Lord, what are the two of them doing over there?" Ajio asked them to cook some porridge for Hao. Looking at the time, it should be almost done. Go take a look. If it's done, scoop a bowl of porridge for me, Mo said. Okay, the two of them replied and quickly walked towards where they came from. There was a large empty space around them. However, they were not in this empty space. Instead, they were under a tree not far away. When they arrived, Luo Yu and Du Fan saw the two of them looking at the immortal ascension stairs under the tree. When they saw them coming over, they smiled. "You're here? Little master, are you hungry? The porridge is almost done." As Wei Feng spoke, he turned around and added some firewood. "Wei Feng, Guimo, you've seen it too, right?" Luo Yu looked at the two of them as he spoke. His eyes burned with excitement. "I saw it. You, Fan Lin, and Du Fan came down after about 70 steps," the two said mockingly, looking at the two people in front of them. "We sigh, we regret it so much now. If we had known earlier, we would have clenched our teeth and climbed those 100 steps. Look at them. They're all stronger than us. We want to go up and try again, but the Yama Lord said that it would be useless for us to go up again." At this point, Luo Yu sighed and said, "By the way, the Yama Lord wants you to go over. He probably wants you to go up and try. You have to listen to us. Although the master should act according to his ability, when you go up, it's best not to think that you have reached your limit. Otherwise, you'll end up like us." When they heard this, the two of them smiled. "We know. Also, you have to go up the immortal ascension stairs like this." They repeated what Fengjiu had said to them. Finally, they said, "Go on. Let's just watch the fire." "Okay." The two of them nodded and walked forward. When they reached there, they bowed to Xianyuan Mose. "Yama Lord, you guys go up and take a walk too." Xianyuan Mose gestured for them to go up the immortal ascension stairs. Chapter 2877. When they saw another two men with extraordinary auras walking towards the immortal ascension stairs, the crowd looked at them strangely and whispered among themselves, "Why are there two more of them? Didn't they all go up just now?" These two people seemed to be in the same group as those who went up before. Yes, it seems so. Just now, they went to the black-robed man with the child before going up the immortal ascension stairs. This group of people is really strange. There are both men and women, and even a child. They look very weak, but all of them are extremely strong. Others who went up the immortal ascension stairs were pushed down by the pressure, or they came down with their tails between their legs. However, all of them advanced up the stairs. I really don't know what kind of luck they have. Hey, where do you think these two people will go? It's hard to say. They're all in the same group. Maybe they went up to the 100th step. Yes, that's not impossible. As everyone discussed, their gazes followed the two people who walked up the stairs. They saw one of the men step on the immortal ascension stairs, and his foot directly passed through the immortal ascension stairs. He stepped into the air, and his entire body swayed forward. The corners of their mouths twitched. Did this person come here to play? That was the immortal ascension stairs. One had to use spiritual power to control the body's balance to walk up the stairs. How could he not step into the air? At this moment, Wei Feng patted his chest and lightly exhaled. "Phew, you really gave me a fright. This is really condensed from clouds. Okay, let's go. Let's go up and take a look." As Guimo spoke, he took the lead and walked up. Seeing this, Wei Feng also adjusted his spiritual power and walked up. Fengjiu saw the two of them come up from the top and smiled. He walked down and came to their side. "Just do your best. There's no need to force yourself." "Yes, master," the two of them replied. However, in their hearts, they were thinking that no matter what, they had to reach the 100th step. Otherwise, how could they, the captains of the Phoenix Guards, raise their heads in front of them in the future? Fengjiu didn't know what they were thinking. He just watched them walk up. As time passed, their clothes were drenched in sweat. Their faces were slightly ugly, and their breathing seemed to be unstable. At this time, they had already reached the 93rd step. She wanted to tell them not to force it, but when she saw the determination in their eyes, she swallowed her words. They were all young people, so how could they not want to compete? In particular, Lung Hua, Lung Shuang, Hui Lang, and the others were all above the 100 step. They were the captains of the Phoenix Guards, and they were by her side. Luo Yu and Fan Lin could no longer reach the 100 step to break through, so they naturally wanted to fight for their dignity. She sighed in her heart and did not say anything else. She only watched quietly until they crossed the threshold of the 100th step. A trace of blood flowed out from the corner of their mouths. The two of them quickly took out medicinal pills and consumed them. Seeing this, she was startled. Then, she smiled. These two people were smart enough to know that it was time to take medicinal pills. Rumble. Thunder rumbled and the clouds in the night sky surged. She narrowed her eyes and looked at the people sitting cross-legged on the immortal ascension stairs. She took a few steps back and silently watched. After watching for a while, she turned around and left. There were no other cultivators coming up here, so there was no need to worry about them being attacked. Thus, she could go down and wait for them to break through. Chapter 2878. Luo Yu, who was at the side, heard this and said faintly, "Master, Fan Lin, Du Fan, and I came here for nothing." Hearing this, Fengjiu laughed. How could that be? She smiled at Luo Yu, who had a bitter look on his face, and said, "You guys can be considered as people who have walked the immortal ascension stairs. Your mental cultivation has also improved. In the future, when the time is right, it will naturally not be a problem for you to advance." She chuckled and continued, "What's more, the few of you have been following me all this while. Now that you've tasted the taste of setbacks, it's also very good. It's impossible for a person to live a smooth life, let alone the Tao of immortality." Hearing this, Luo Yu and Fan Lin's hearts trembled. It was as if they had been enlightened. Instantly, their bodies felt refreshed. The spiritual energy in their bodies also surged. The spiritual energy in their dantian surged like waves on a calm sea, causing their blood to boil. Fengjiu glanced at them and raised his eyebrows. "You too. It seems that your words have made them understand. In addition to the changes in their mental state from the previous experience, they're now about to advance." Xianyuan Mose, who was carrying the child, stood up and said to Fengjiu, "Let Tun Yun and Lao Bai stay here to protect them. Let's go over there." "Okay." Fengjiu responded and helped the unconscious by ching up. At the same time, he instructed the two contracted beasts behind him. "Guard them well. Don't let anyone plot against them." "Yes, master." Senior White and Tun Yin replied. The originally shrunken Tun Yin stood up, and then his body trembled. With a flash of light, he recovered his majestic and terrifying super-divine beast form. On the other hand, Senior White swung his tail and walked up and down in the surroundings. Seeing that the originally unremarkable little pet had actually transformed into a majestic sacred beast, the surrounding cultivators all sucked in a mouthful of cold air and cursed in their hearts for being a freak. Having that mutated super-divine beast was already very powerful. That little pet was also a super-divine beast? What was the background of this woman in red? How could he be so abnormally strong? On the other side, when Du Fan saw them coming over, he quickly went forward to help by Ching-Chang to a nearby tree to rest. Only then did he look at the two people who were breaking through not far away and asked, "Master, why have the two of them also broken through?" Fengjiu chuckled. "When the time is right, I'll advance." Du Fan sighed. "Looks like I'm the most useless one. You have your specialties, don't worry about these things." Fengjiu said, patting him on the shoulder, and said, "Sit down. Let's eat something together." "All right." As Du Fan spoke, he didn't go over to stand guard for them. With Senior White and Tun Yun standing guard there, it would be strange if those cultivators dared to make a move. "Master, they're all advancing up there. I wonder if they will be able to complete their advancement by tomorrow. If they can't, we won't be able to leave tomorrow, right?" "Yes, there's no hurry. We're already here. Let them rest after they break through before we leave." As Fengjiu spoke, he looked at Hao who was playing with Xianyuan Moses' clothes. He smiled and said, "You must be tired after carrying him for so long." Let me carry you. No need, you should eat something first. Xianyuan Mo said, letting her eat something first. Hearing this, Fengjiu thought for a while and nodded. All right. Chapter 2879. Fengjiu and the rest looked over and saw a seven-colored rainbow appear in the sky. The birds in the forest flapped their wings and flew around the rainbow, chirping. When they listened carefully, they could faintly hear celestial music coming from the clouds and into the ears of the people below. Celestial music! This is celestial music! Someone exclaimed, looking at the scene in the sky in disbelief. Even though they had been cultivating for many years, they rarely saw such a scene. Bai Qingcheng, who was unconscious, fluttered her eyelashes. The sound she heard echoed in her mind. Even though her eyelids felt heavy, she tried to open them to take a look. She supported herself on the ground and sat up. Although her head hurt when she saw the scene in the sky, she could not help but be stunned. Who is breaking through? When Du Fan saw that she was awake, he smiled and said, You're awake. Other than the two of us, everyone else is breaking through. Look, the celestial music is coming from the clouds because of their breakthroughs and the seven-colored rainbow as well. Other than the two of us. Bai Qingcheng was stunned, her face pale. I don't remember what happened. Your inner demon was triggered by the illusion, causing your blood to flow in the opposite direction. You'll be fine after a good rest. Don't worry, Fengjiu turned around and said. Master, Bai Qingcheng called out. She seemed to want to say something, but she did not know where to start. On the other side, as time passed, the rainbow in the sky gradually dissipated. The first to descend was Leng Hua, followed by Leng Shuang and the rest. When they reached the ground, Luo Yu and Fan Lin also broke through the threshold and successfully entered the fairy realm. The people around them looked on with envy. They had relied on their own strength to break through, unlike those cultivators who had taken elixirs to break through and their strength would forever remain stagnant. The cultivators in front of them still had a long way to go. Master, Yama Lord, Master, Ghost Doctor. They called out in unison. Leng Hua and the others always called out to their master first, followed by Xianyuan Mo's. Hui Lang and Ying naturally called out to their master first, followed by Fengjiu. We have entered the fairy realm, they exclaimed excitedly. Congratulations, Fengjiu said with a smile. Seeing how happy they were, he gave each of them a pill. This pill can help you stabilize your dantian quickly. Many thanks, Master. They were overjoyed. After receiving the pills, they hurriedly took them and adjusted their breathing. Many thanks, Ghost Doctor. Ying Yi and Hui Lang also cupped their fists in thanks before sitting down to adjust their breathing. Du Fan, prepare some food. We need to celebrate today, Fengjiu ordered. All right, I will go into the forest to hunt some wild animals, Du Fan said with a smile. Just as he was about to leave, Tunyan leaped up and followed him. I will go and pick up some branches, Bai Qingcheng said as she stood up as well. Is your body all right? Fengjiu asked. Master, don't worry. I am fine now, she said. Hearing this, Fengjiu nodded and let Lao Bai and Fire Phoenix follow him. The group of them roasted some wild animals to celebrate. After they had adjusted their breathing and stabilized their strength, Xianyuan Mose took out some wine and said, since it is a celebration, we must have wine. Hui Lang, pour some wine for everyone. Chapter 2880. What if we get drunk here? Luo Yu was a little distressed. It's rare for us to be so happy today. I'm sure we'll get drunk. Ha ha ha. It's not the wine that gets you drunk, but you get yourself drunk. If you're afraid of getting drunk, drink less. Wei Feng patted his shoulder and said, It's all right, drink up. I've prepared some hangover pills. Fan Lin said as he took out a bottle and gave each of them a pill. After eating this, you won't get drunk no matter how much you drink. Haha, this is good. Du Fan took the pill and ate it. Come, let's drink. Fengjiu saw that they were so happy and drank with them. When he saw that Leng Hua and Bai Qingcheng had only filled half a bowl, he said, It's all right, drink up. This is spiritual wine. The spiritual energy can nourish your muscles and veins. Yes. The two of them answered and took a sip of the wine. Let's all eat some roasted meat. Lung Hua used his knife to cut off a piece of meat and wrapped it in a leaf before handing it to them. The group of people celebrated, eating and drinking. The surrounding cultivators couldn't help but swallow their saliva. Someone said, "It smells so good. How can they roast meat that smells so good?" That's right. We roasted it ourselves, but it didn't smell like that. Look at them. How many people are there? They're all breaking through to the next level. I'm so jealous. Ha ha ha. That's because they're all talented. There's no point in being jealous. Damn it. I don't believe it. I'm going to try the Immortal Ascension stairs too. What if I can break through to the next level? As a result, many cultivators were provoked and tried to climb up the Immortal Ascension stairs. However, not long after, some of them came down with pale faces. Some of them were forced down by the pressure of the Immortal Ascension stairs. The cultivators who were pushed down by the Immortal Ascension stairs fell heavily to the ground. Their muscles and veins were broken, and their cultivators were crippled. Everyone who saw them sighed. Grey Wolf and the others were eating meat as they watched. They said, "Look, look, look. This Immortal Ascension staircase is really not something that ordinary people can climb. Those of us who can ascend beyond the 100th step are really blessed by the heavens." Not bad. Fengjiu nodded. Generally speaking, cultivators above the 100th step might not be able to advance. It's your fortune that you were able to advance above the 100th step. Master, when are we leaving? How we leave then? Luo Yu asked curiously. Even if they went up, they would only be able to reach the 100th step. They would not be able to go any further. But at that time, how would their master lead them up the Immortal Ascension stairs? Fengjiu chuckled. You don't need to know. Naturally, the secret of the space cannot be revealed to them. Even if he wanted to bring them up, they would have to enter the space while unconscious. On this day, they ate and drank to their heart's content and rested until the next morning. Fengjiu and Xinyuan Mose led them out of this place and into the forest. Seeing them leave, the cultivators thought that they should have left. But they were curious. Why didn't the black-robed man go up? And that woman in red? Seeing how she was able to climb up the Immortal Ascension stairs, it should not be a problem for her to go up. Why was she only protecting those people? Chapter 2881. Some people thought that they hadn't woken up and were seeing things. Thus, they rubbed their eyes and sat up to take a look. It really was those two people. The man in the black robe with a cold face like an iceberg, and the beautiful woman in the red dress. The only difference was that these two people were still the same as before. However, the woman in red today was dressed as a man. She was still wearing red robes, but she exuded a different aura. If this woman was said to be enchanting and beautiful when she was wearing a red dress, then when she was dressed as a man, she was wanton and evil. That evil charm and unparalleled temperament gave people a feeling that it was difficult to distinguish between a man and a woman. If they had not seen her in a woman's dress before, they would have really thought that the person in front of them was a man at this moment. Furthermore, the people who had been with them and their contracted beasts had all disappeared. Even the child in their arms had disappeared. They thought that perhaps after sending those people away, the two of them wanted to try the Immortal Ascension staircase again. In front of the Immortal Ascension staircase, Xinyuan Mose held Fengjiu's hand. He looked at her and asked softly in a magnetic voice, "Are you ready?" Fengjiu replied and smiled. She had already prepared herself for a new and unfamiliar environment. Even though it was unfamiliar, with him by her side, she had nothing to fear. They held hands and walked up the Immortal Ascension staircase. Their steps were calm and unhurried. Every step they took was filled with confidence. It was as if they were not walking up the Immortal Ascension staircase, nor were they walking down the Immortal Ascension staircase to another world. It was as if they were taking a stroll in their own backyard. The two of them walked up the Immortal Ascension staircase together. They did not know how long they had been walking up the Immortal Ascension staircase. They only knew that they were getting closer and closer to the top. Fengjiu had been here before, and it was easy for him. As for Xinyuan Mose, although it was his first time, he did not feel any pressure. However, Unlike Fengjiu, he did not ascend the immortal ascension staircase to the next level. It was only when the two of them reached the top of the staircase that they stopped and looked at each other. This is the profound light gate. After passing through here, it will be another world. Fengjiu looked at Xinyuan Mose and said, "The last time I came here, I heard a few old monsters talking over there. It should be an expert from that side." Xinyuan Mose said, "I wonder where we will appear after we pass through this place." She was a little curious. What kind of place would appear after this step? When Imochen walked here, where did he appear? He had gone there alone, so where could he be now? No matter where we are, I will be by your side. He held her hand tightly and said, "Don't worry, let's go." She replied, and held his hand tightly as they walked forward. The two of them took the last step and walked into the profound light gate. They felt a force sucking them in. Light flashed in front of them, and they suddenly felt dizzy. Chapter 2882. When he saw this, his deep black eyes couldn't help but flash. A trace of surprise flashed across his eyes. He whispered to Fengjiu, who was in his arms, "Jiu, we seem to have arrived at someone else's sect." Fengjiu poked her head out of his arms and looked around. When she saw this, she was stunned. "It's so lively. Don't tell me we've bumped into their annual competition?" Below them, a sea of people had gathered. It seemed like there was more than one sect, because everyone was wearing the same color robes. On the high platform in the middle, the two people fighting on the high platform were also stunned by the sudden appearance of the crowd and stopped fighting. At this time, the people below were a little dumbfounded. Several of them were participating in the annual competition. Suddenly, a dazzling light flashed in the sky. A vortex appeared, and a black figure suddenly appeared in their line of sight. However, when they focused their eyes, they saw a red figure poke her head out from the black figure's arms. When they looked closely, they saw that it was a man in a black robe who was holding a red-robed young man. In broad daylight, two men hugging each other appeared in front of everyone's eyes. This scene almost stunned everyone below. They had only seen a man hugging a woman, but they had never seen a man hugging a man. Where did these two come from? They couldn't have come down from the immortal ascension stairs, right? If they came down from the immortal ascension stairs, why would they be hugging each other? And they're both men? Could it be that people from the other side like this? Hey, look, that man in the black robe looks very... How should I describe it? A man on the side continued. The man in the black robe has a sharp aura. He exudes a powerful pressure and a noble aura. His face is handsome, but it doesn't lose its coldness. Without mentioning anything else, just his appearance alone is enough to surpass Dongfang Qianjue, the leader of the 10 heavens favorites of the 4 major celestial sects. I didn't think that a place like that could give birth to someone who is comparable to a god. At that moment, the eyes of the venerables from the various sects flickered when they saw the two people who suddenly appeared. In particular, the eyes of a few of them lit up when they saw the beautiful face that peeked out from the black-robed man's arms. It's her, the little girl that they had taken a fancy to this time. It was also at this moment that Xinyuan Mose landed steadily on the stage with Fengjiu in tow. After he steadied himself, he let go of Fengjiu's waist and released her from his embrace. "What's wrong? Are you okay?" He ignored the people around him and lowered his head to ask Fengjiu, who was in his arms. "And I'm fine." Fengjiu blinked as she looked at the people around her. At the same time, she walked out of Xinyuan Mose's arms. "I'm so sorry. We seem to have disturbed you," Fengjiu said apologetically. She cupped her hands at the two people on the stage. At this moment, the people saw that the young man hiding in the black-robed man's arms was an extremely handsome young man. The young man was wearing a dazzling red robe. His black hair was tied up and draped behind his back. His clear eyes were smiling, and the corners of his lips were slightly curled, revealing a devilish smile. His actions were carefree and casual. He looked just like a young master from a wealthy family. They couldn't help but be stunned. Chapter 2883. Ha 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 ha. A hearty and excited laugh broke the strange atmosphere. A middle-aged man dressed in loose robes stood up and looked at Fengjiu. Aren't you Fengjiu? I've been waiting for you for a long time. What do you mean you've been waiting for her for a long time? I'm the one who made the decision to take her in. An old monster dressed in white robes who looked like a 7 or 8-year-old child spoke up. He smiled and squinted his eyes as he stared at Fengjiu and waved his hand. It's me. Do you recognize my voice? Fengjiu, I was the one who insisted on opening the stairway to immortality. So, for you to be able to come here, it must have something to do with me. You can ignore the rest of them. A beautiful woman said as she stared at Fengjiu. The more she looked at him, the more she liked him. Who would have thought that this little girl would be so stunning when she was dressed as a woman? But when she was dressed as a man, she was still so mesmerizing. Her eyes were fixed on Fengjiu, and she ignored Xianyuan Mose, who was standing next to Fengjiu. She was completely focused on Fengjiu. What do you mean by insisting on it? We were the ones who suggested it. An old man next to her said, unhappily. That's right. We've already agreed that if she wants to go, she can choose for herself. The old monster who looked like a child said. His old voice suddenly changed, and he spoke to Fengjiu innocently. You can choose me. I'm good. I'm better than all of them. If you become my disciple, I guarantee that you'll always be a child. Puffed. If she's like you, then she'll be miserable. She won't be able to grow up. You're an old monster, but you still look like a child. Isn't that disgusting? Even now, you're still thinking of harming others? The beautiful woman next to her sneered and mocked her mercilessly. Am I as disgusting as you? You're obviously an old witch, yet you still act like a young girl. You dress up all day long. What do you think you're doing? You don't have the demeanor of a venerable at all. I'll be miserable if I follow you. What are you talking about, you old bastard? What's wrong with calling you an old witch? You old bastard. Seeing the two of them quarreling there, the surrounding people were dumbfounded. What the hell is going on? Why would two venerables suddenly quarrel in front of so many people? Also, did they know this red-clothed youth? Why were they all fighting for him to become their disciple? Xianyuan Mose looked at the scene in front of him and asked, Are these the people you mentioned last time? Why do they look so strange? However, it was undeniable that the strength of these people was unfathomable. I haven't seen them before, but it sounds like them. As she spoke, she saw them quarreling there. So she looked at them and asked, Venerable ones, may I ask something? As soon as she spoke, the two of them stopped quarreling and turned to look at Fengjiu at the same time. They smiled amiably. Fengjiu, what do you want to ask? Ask away, ask away. Seeing this, the crowd below could not help but be stunned. Were these still the two cold-faced, venerable ones that they knew? Why did it seem like they were being treated differently? You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.